Hey, what's going on? It's Nate here, and I hope you're excited because we're going to complete your foundational open chords in this lesson for Guitar Foundations. And you're going to like these chords because they're going to be a lot easier than the last ones that you learned, the G major and the C major. We're going to learn the three foundational minor chords that you need to know: E minor, A minor, and D minor. And now you're probably going to notice right away that in general, minor chords sound a little bit sadder and major chords sound a bit happier. Here's an E major. Sounds nice and happy, and then a minor chord sounds kind of sad. And there's a good reason for that. We'll get into it more when we talk about music theory later on in the course. But for now, just realize minor chords sad, major chords a little bit happier sounding. So before we get into these shapes, make sure if you're not already subscribed to the channel to do that right here and give the video a thumbs up, help spread the word about this course. And you can also visit natesavage.com to sign up for email notifications for all the new stuff that's happening there. Let's go ahead and get into the E minor. And this is super easy if you already know your E major chord. So if you know your E major chord, you should by now, right? And make sure it's clean. Go through all the clean chord tips. Elevate the guitar if you need to. Don't kink your wrist too far one way or the other. Elbow in. And all you have to do is take your index finger off. And you can end up playing that G string open instead of having the first fret down with your index finger. So that's not too hard at all, right? This is like the rock and roll chord right there, you know? Most people think of. And the idea here is you already have this kind of as a reference, this E chord. That is to just be able to put that on all at once, of course, without muting any of the strings. So if you need to take some time, stop the video, get that one down, perfectly fine. If you're ready to move on to the next one is super easy too, because we're going to be referencing our E major shape again, but we're going to be moving it over one string set. It's an A minor chord. And let's start with an A major first, just as kind of a warm-up or a refresher. So this A major shape, all you're going to do is take this note right here with your third finger, second fret of the B string, and move it back one fret. But you have to change the fingering of this chord to be able to do that. So what you end up doing is making a shape that's just like the E major chord, only it's moved over one string set. So your middle finger ends up being on the second fret of the D string, third finger ends up being on the second fret of the G, and your first finger is on the first fret of the B string. Then you strum all the strings except the low E string, leave that one out. So the difference between an A major in sound, and then just make that little quick shift. If you need to, a really good exercise would be to move from the E major to the A minor, because you're using that same kind of shape. It sounds very classical. But that's your A minor shape. So there's not a whole, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of new stuff to think about in this lesson, because you've already got most of the coordinations and basic shapes down. You just have to kind of identify them as a new thing, like, oh, this is an E minor now instead of E major, and this is an A minor that's moved over one string set. We're just lowering that one note back. Now for the A minor, you do have to work on that strumming aim to make sure you're not hitting that low E string. And oftentimes what I'll do, if your technique is up to the point where you can do this, you can reach over with your thumb and mute the low E string, just to make sure if you accidentally hit it, doesn't ring out. But ideally just work on your aim. If you need to look back to make that happen, that's great. All right, down to our last open chord of our 8 fundamental chords, and this is a D minor, and to me this is the hardest minor one of them all. And it's for a different reason though. I feel like this is the chord, and I always feel like my fingers just lined up in a row on one string like this, but it's a very subtle difference. Here's the chord, and you don't play the low E or A strings at all. Leave those out and play just the top 4 strings, just like you did with the D major chord. So here's your D major. What has to happen is this note right here with your second finger on the high E string needs to move back one fret. To do that, you have to change your fingering. You have to swap your first and second fingers basically. Second finger goes to the second fret of the G string. Third finger stays where it is on the third fret of the B string, and then your index finger comes all the way back here to the first fret of the first string, or high E string. And then just strum the top 4 strings. And again, the reason this is so hard to me is because it always feels like I'm just lining my fingers up on one string, but you're not. It's very different. And check out the angle of my fingers. All the clean chord tips apply here. Thumb on the back of the neck. Elevate the guitar neck if you need to. Elbow in. Don't kink your wrist too far one way or the other. And you come in with that kind of 45-degree angle instead of completely perpendicular or completely parallel to the strings. And that should get you to where you can come around the very tips of your fingers and you're not muting like this. So watch what happens when I get a little bit lax and careless, muty, and then I bring my elbow in a little bit, wrist unkinks a little bit, and it ends up cleaning up. So same thing with all three of these chords. And I'm kind of going through these quickly, but that's because you already know the foundational things you need to know here. But once you get these fingerings down, just put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. Consistency is really important. So leave it on there for a few seconds, and then again, put it on. It's probably going to be one finger at a time at the beginning, but eventually, after a few days or a few weeks of this, you're going to shoot to have that go on all at once. And the same thing for like the A minor. Just on and off over and over again during your practice time. And this will be a big practice point for you until you get these chords down. So remember, pull up the clean chord checklist and then just put it on and off over and over again multiple times a day if you can. If you need to stop the video right now to get these chord voicings down, that's perfectly fine. We're gonna go ahead and move on to some exercises that switch between these chords. And remember, most important part of getting clean chord transitions down is memorize and be able to go right to the individual chord shapes first before trying to switch between chords. For the exercises we're going to be going through as far as, switching between these chords, our ultimate goal is going to be an A minor, D minor, E minor progression, but we're going to start off with just an E minor and a D minor, and just switch between those two chords. You can do this with or without a metronome at first, maybe start without and then add the metronome in. So you're just going to do whole notes on an A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, then a whole note on a D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, at whatever tempo is good for you. Just switch back and forth between an A minor and a D minor. And you're going to want to work on your aim, all 5 strings. Don't hit the low E string for the A minor, and then just the top 4 for the D minor. Look back at your hand if you need to. Get a mirror, record yourself too, or you can set up your phone with a video camera on, but just not recording anything if you need to see it. That works really well. Anyway, once you can do that, pull up your metronome. 70, 60 beats per minute, something like that, and just work on switching back and forth between your A minor and D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you need to put a measure of rest, like we did earlier, 1, 2, to give you time to switch. 4, that's fine too. You can do that. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But by now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you can go to where you don't need that measure of rest. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, when you're first learning how to switch between some new chords that you've learned, it's really important to keep it to just 2 at a time. That way you don't feel overwhelmed, like if I was switching between the A minor, the D minor, and the E minor all in one progression. That might be a little bit too much to bite off, so isolating just 2 chords at a time like we just did with that progression is a really good way to go. And the next exercise does the exact same thing. So it starts with the D minor for 1 measure, a whole note, and then goes to an E minor for 1 measure. And that's the entire progression. Just go back and forth between a D minor and an E minor, no metronome at first. 1, 2, 3, 4, then an E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure on the D minor to only hit the top 4 strings. For the E minor, you get all 6. And put the measure of rest in between if you need to. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. And then you can turn on the metronome once you're comfortable with that and get it going. And let's do 70 beats per minute. 1, 2, D minor, go. 1, 2, 3. Here comes the E minor. Think about it. 1, 2, 3. Think about the D minor coming up. 1, 2. Think about how the E minor feels and make the switch. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to know really quickly if you know these chords on their own well enough. Because if you don't, this is what's going to happen to 3, 4. You're going to go, oh no. And then the measure that you're supposed to have played that D minor for is going to be gone. So that's the telltale. Either slow things way down to maybe 60 beats per minute, or don't use a metronome, or spend some more time just on the D minor, E minor, and A minor shapes on their own first, so we can go right to them. All right, now onto the ultimate progression for this lesson. It's just an A minor, D minor, E minor progression. Starts off with using quarter notes and a measure of rest in between each chord to give you time to make that switch, and it'll get progressively more and more difficult here as we go. All right, here's the basic layout. For this progression, A minor for 1 measure with quarter notes, all downstrokes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure of rest to switch to D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another measure of rest to switch to E. 1, 2, 3, 4. And another measure of rest to start over and go back to A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch to E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that last measure of rest brings you back around to the beginning. So spend some time with that without a metronome, and then put it on 60 or 70 beats per minute again. 1, 2, 3, A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure of rest. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the end of the exercise. Measure of rest to back to the beginning. A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think about the next one that's coming up. Make the switch to E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're back to the beginning there. Again, if you need to stop and take some time, days, weeks to work on this, totally cool, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep going through. I think we have 3 more exercises with this. We're taking the rests out for this next one, using all quarter notes. So you have 2 measures of A, 2 measures of D minor. I should say A minor, be more specific when you're talking about chords. 2 measures of A minor, 2 measures of D minor, then 2 measures of E minor, no rests. Okay, let's go no metronome at first. So 1, 2, A minor, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Here comes a D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another measure. 1, 2, 3. Here comes the E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the entire thing. You can keep that going at whatever speed you need to, then throw a metronome on. 60 or 70 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, A minor. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Here comes the D minor. Think about it. 1, 2, 3. And I'm muting those low E strings with my thumb. Here comes the E minor. Think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And that's the top again. 1, 2, 3, 4. D minor. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you know what's coming next. 8th notes. First, we're going to do it with a measure of rest in between each chord change, so you have time to make that transition. And you can use just straight down strokes, or you can use alternating down and up strokes. It's really up to you. Start on the A minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and make the switch. Have a measure of rest. D minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and make the switch. Measure of rest to E minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that last measure of rest brings you back around to the beginning to just repeat that again. So do that without a metronome, and then throw in the metronome. Here it is at 70 beats per minute. Again, this is quite a leap, so if you need to do it without a metronome at first for a while, that's totally cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Time to rest. Switch. 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Here comes the A minor back to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Comes the D minor. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. Switch to that E minor. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're back to the beginning. So things are about to get a little more intense here. We're going 8th notes again, but we're taking the measures of rest out, switching between all 3 chords. So you're not gonna have much time at all, just like a half of an 8th note, if that, to switch between your A minor 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D minor 2 and 3 and 4 and E minor. And back to the top. 3 and 4. And so as soon as you hit that last 8th note, you have to make that jump really good. And this is gonna let you know if you know the individual chord shapes very well or not. So heads up, here it comes, 70 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here comes the D minor. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. E minor. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to A minor. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. D minor. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. E minor. One more measure of E minor. Now, one thing that I should mention here is you can put in the little open string blip here as a stepping stone to help you clean up these chord transitions. So if you have the A minor 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that last that upstroke open strings, right? Then the D minor 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. You get the idea there. So that's it. That's all the chords and the exercises you have to learn for this lesson. I know it's a lot, but you can do it. Now, you're probably feeling one of two things right now. You're probably either feeling really positive and good, like everything's starting to come together and you're feeling confident in being able to play through chord changes like, hey, I can play the guitar, this is great. And if that's you, awesome. Now, the other camp that you might be in is like, there's too much stuff happening all at once. I can't do this, things are just falling apart. Now, if that's the case for you, don't worry, you can do it. You probably just need to go back and spend some more concerted time on dividing the challenges up. So just spend some time with your strumming, just on your strumming, then spend some time just on being able to go to the individual chord shapes, and then try to put them together to switch between the chords. You just need to kind of bolster up those fundamental skills a little bit if you're feeling a little panicky, like things are falling apart a little bit. So here are your assignments for this lesson. Number 1, work on your open E minor chord. Get that shape down. And number 2, work on your strumming aim for the open E minor chord. So all 6 strings, just make sure you hit all 6. Number 3, work on your open A minor chord. Number 4, work on your strumming aim for your open A minor chord. So leave the low E string out for that one. Number 5, make sure you get your D minor chord shape down so we can go right to it on its own. And number 6, work on your strumming aim for the D minor chord. So leave the low E and A strings out, just the top 4 strings. Number 7, make sure you know these 3 open minor chord shapes very well on their own before proceeding to the next 6 exercises or assignments. And that's exactly what assignments 8 through 13 are. They're just practicing exercises 1 through 6 that we just went through. I know this is a lot to think about, but try to keep this in mind. You're building the core fundamental skills that you need to play the guitar, and this is laying the foundation for you when you go learn new songs or learn new chord shapes or figure out new strumming patterns on your own in songs, that those foundational things are going to be there for you to draw on. So you're building it right now. It may not be easy, but it is worth it, and it will get you a really long way down the road. Now, if you're having really serious trouble with any of these individual areas, you can always go to natesavage.com and schedule a private lesson with me. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. Also, don't forget to leave any questions or comments you may have in the comments down below. You can also email me, Nate@natesavage.com. I will see you in the next lesson.